We're going to bring in who has a little expertise on this subject. Patrick Moore is joining us now. He is co-founder of Greenpeace. Great to see you, Patrick. Thank you for being here. So you heard what what O'Rourke said, Beto O'Rourke, forgive me, that he said not to be too dramatic or melodramatic, but it's going to be the end of the world in 12 years. What's your reaction?
Well, my reaction is he must be following the exact same line as AOC. I don't know how these people get this idea that the world is going to come to an end. The environment has been getting cleaner for 50 years. The air is cleaner, the water is cleaner now in our part of the world. It's true that China and India and Indonesia and countries in Asia and some in Africa need to do more work, but they're coming up out of poverty now as well, and they're demanding more environmental standards. So I simply don't understand how anybody could think that their children won't be able to breathe the air in 10 years. What is he thinking?
If I may just interject and say what he is thinking, if you look at what the items that he's mentioned environmental, he's mentioned healthcare, he's mentioned money and politics, and he has talked about racial equality. Those are four topics that resonate really, really well with a younger demographic and with the far left. And that was according to the voter study group, and they did research on that. So I feel like he's just trying to cater to that group. Like Liz said, he has been relatively moderate thus far. We haven't really heard his opinion on anything, so he's playing his cards right. I think it was a little bit vain to come out in Vanity Fair and say that he didn't need to prepare for his speech at all. It just comes out of him. But, you know, he could still prove himself going forward.
All right, hold on one second, Jonathan. I just want to throw something in here. We were able to catch up with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, of course, the author of the Green New Deal, and here's what she had to say about all this. Let's just play the tape, and Jonathan, then get your reaction. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, it's a winning issue. We're talking about 67% of Iowa voters in the caucus support the Green New Deal, and now 91% would prefer a candidate that's talking about it. So clearly, it's a jobs plan, it's a community turnaround plan. We're talking about putting tons of money and investment, and not just throwing it away and use this infrastructure, but in getting us to cheaper energy and to, you know, in really reinvigorating our economy.
Really?
Well, it all sounds pretty promising. What is not mentioned, David, however, is the costs. And this is the irony, is, you know, liberals, they love the environment, but they hate people. And we people who actually live in the environment. So things like, air travel and fossil fuels that actually benefit mankind. And as our guest talked about, the more fossil fuels we've burned, the better mankind has gotten. My question would be, has any of these dire warnings from the environmental movement ever played out? It almost seems like what immigrants are for the right, the environmental movement is for the left. I mean, we've been talking about the world warming and the oceans overflowing for years now. Has any of this hysteria ever played out?
Patrick?
No, none of it has ever played out. The real irony I see is Beto, on one hand, is saying there's going to be millions of climate refugees at the southern border, while at the same time he's calling for the wall to be taken down. What kind of a position is that? And more importantly, the real climate refugees are the people from Canada who are going down south in the winter to get away from the cold, not the other way around.
Patrick, let's talk specifically about the Green New Deal. There are a couple of